Hello Victoria, my name's Jessica Davis and fortunately a terminated paramedic and a terminated nurse just like thousands of other workers in the state. I'd like to introduce a new e-petition to the Parliament of Victoria called Review the Vaccine Mandate Imposed on All Workers. What is an e-petition? An e-petition is an opportunity for citizens to have a voice. It is a call for action. We need the Legislative Council and the decision makers to review the current vaccine mandates, the strict measures that are in place to date, taking into consideration that the state of emergency is declared over. We have high vaccination rates, we have high immunity, and we have healthcare workers that are burning out. So taking into consideration all factors, we need the decision makers to review the current situation. And essentially what we're asking for is for the COVID-19 vaccines and also the flu vaccine directions to cease immediately, and also issue a state directive to all the employers to reinstate the employees that were terminated because of the COVID vaccine mandates. How do we get this done? We need 10,000 signatures for a parliamentary debate. So let's go to www.aw4a.com.au, sign, share across the state, and let's get this job done.
Did you know they plan to build over 3,000 wind turbines on Queensland's Great Dividing Range? Over 3,700 kilometres of new haulage roads will carve through old growth forest. Destroying forests for industrial renewables makes no sense. It doesn't have to be this way. The intact biodiverse ranges of Queensland are no place for renewables. Take 2 minutes to learn the truth about the destruction they cause. Go to rainforestreserves.org.au.
Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. You know? Shame on you people. You know? You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joint.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. Thank you to everyone who are watching live on Facebook, Rumble and YouTube. If you are watching live, you can comment in real time, ask a question, and also at some point during today's conversation, I'll put the link in the chat. If you want to call in, please do so. We love hearing from a fantastic audience. Commanding the Narrative takes a lot of different skins. It is a revolving door almost. Sometimes I do my own interviews. Sometimes I'll have Paul Vallejo on or Victor DL. But the OG of Commanding the Narrative is where I am now with you two gentlemen. It's Katie McCallum's favorite podcast, Commanding the Narrative with Mr. Sam Buono and Mr. Richard Storch. Sam, how are you going?
Good, mate. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I see you in your Commanding the Narrative uniform.
Right there, boys. Yeah.
And Mr. Richard Storch, thank you for hosting us again.
Yep, thank you.
Now,
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it is always a pleasure.
Viewers just been. I've had a sore throat and cough and splurt in the last couple of days, so I'm a bit croaky.
Well, nothing more than normal.
What Sam's trying to say is he wants you to send him a care package. But if you would also like to send us a care package, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee and throw us a few dollars there. It's just a way of our wonderful audience being able to show their appreciation for us and everything that we do. So if you are so inclined, please head to Buy Me a Coffee and support us there. Also, you can head to the t-shirt shop. If you do want to get your own Sam Buono t-shirt, you can. You can also get some other Commanding the Narrative t-shirts there, and also some ex-candidates t-shirts. There's also the Kevin for the Senate t-shirt. If you do purchase that t-shirt, all profits will go to Kevin and his upcoming campaign to get elected in the federal parliament. Today I'm wearing one of these t-shirts. This is from the Coalition Against Offshore Wind Farms in Illawarra. Thank you for those people down there for everything that you do. We just had a forum on Sunday, the Environment and Energy Forum, the one that I've been rabbiting on about for so long now. Well, it finally happened in DY. It was a fantastic event. It was really good. The feedback from it is incredible. You can head to ADH TV and find the footage of that event. You can see here the Q&A with all our notable speakers: Malcolm Roberts, Dr. Peter Reid, Daniel Wild, Craig Kelly, Professor Stephen Wilson, Barnaby Joyce, Tony Owen, Dick Smith was fantastic, Dr. Mark Ho, Paul Vallejo was there, a whole bunch of different community groups and everything like that. So it was a fantastic event. I just want to give them all a shout out. Obviously, the National Rational Energy Network that organised the event, the Institute of Public Affairs, Nuclear for Australia, Australian Nuclear Association, CWO Resist, Bunurong SOS, Oberon Against Wind Towers, Property Rights Australia, Kilkeven Action Group, Responsible Future Illawarra, and the Climate and Energy Realists of 5 Dock. Sam, did you enjoy it?
Yeah. I've been crook for the last week or two. I've had some internal problems. I was there I talked to a few people outside and all that sort of thing, but my concentration levels were. But funny enough, I saw.
That's a good endorsement for the event. Thank you for that.
But funny enough,
how about you?
The most interesting part was I hadn't seen him. I used to work with this guy. I hadn't seen him for 30 years.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure the audience loves to hear those.
I thought it was a great event. I was a bit disturbed to find that the numbers were a bit down on last year, but
I'm never going to ask you guys this question.
But the online presence,
you weren't interested, and you thought the crowd was bad.
No, I thought the crowd.
What
was
about
good.
the speakers, the amazing speakers that we had? And you can watch it. You can watch it again. You can go ADH TV and
but
watch.
you said the online presence was high.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. It was a horrible day. No one wanted.
Yeah, well, it was one of those days after a wet Saturday.
So I thought the speakers were great. I thought Dick Smith was a real sort of coup for the event.
Yeah, it was.
He's everything that we want our philanthropists to be. They're guide, a guide and a leader. Not necessarily up front, but working behind the scenes and making things happen.
We've always been.
I thought Barnaby was, as usual. He's a pretty commanding presence. He's so much more impressive in person than, and you really get to feel his presence when you meet him in person.
Well, he's the best retail politician. He relates to people. He just simplifies it.
I mean,
gets the message.
Yeah, everyone just pours shit on him and says that he's overreactive and over impassioned and all this sort of stuff. But we then turn around and complain that we've got white bread politicians that don't stand for anything or say anything of any significance. Well, he never stops saying things that are straight to the point.
Well, I think the unsung heroes were the country people that came.
Absolutely.
Katie McCallum blew it out of the park the way she speaks. I mean, she speaks from the heart. She speaks with passion, and you can definitely tell that when she spoke. Jim Wilmot from Property Rights Australia was fantastic. Grant Piper was fantastic. And all the community groups that I mentioned that had exhibitions up the back, the stuff that they were presenting really needs to get out there. So,
on a personal note, I'd like to acknowledge their courage. They're not people that have sought to step forward. They've felt compelled to step forward because of what's happening to their communities, and that's really sad in one way, and it's really inspiring on another. And I agree with you about Katie. I mean, she's just a leader, She's 100% a leader.
She's a born leader, and I mean, a former cop. She's seen it all. I've had some phone conversations with her just this week where she's gone through some of the stuff she's experienced. So one of her main points was these politicians that are in Parliament would not be doing what they would be doing if they had on the ground experience like she did, like in specifically like Aboriginal communities or country areas, and she's seen it firsthand. And the politicians in the city areas and in Canberra, they just don't get it. They've never done anything else but apart from work in a political office.
Peter Dutton has.
Well,
Hey, listen, this is a senior detective in major crimes in Queensland. It's like what he did was deal with child molesters and porn and everything and drug importation. You know, I mean, he was there for 10 years.
And how does that compare with your favourite politician, Anthony Albanese?
Well, there is no comparison, obviously.
Straight from university politics, straight into Tom Uren's office.
Albanese's been sucking on the public tit his whole life. Apart from a brief interlude as a bank teller.
Speaking of Mr. Albanese and his Labor government, there's all this talk at the moment about the redistribution. The draft has come out for Western Australia and Victoria. We're still waiting for the draft in New South Wales,
which is next Friday.
Yep. What are your thoughts on WA and Victoria?
I think the redistribution was extremely unkind to the Labor Party. It gave them no chance in the new seat in Western Australia, I don't think.
So can you explain a little bit what it all, for people that don't know what we're all talking about?
Well, there was a readjustment of quotas. So Victoria and New South Wales lost a seat, and Western Australia gained one. So there's a new seat in Western Australia, which is called Bullwinkle, which is not after the cartoon.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
It is after Sister Vivian Bullwinkle, who was a war hero in World War II. So I'm all in favour of naming seats after our war heroes instead of insignificant politicians and various other lowlifes.
But it also means that with Victoria and New South Wales losing a seat each and Western Australia gaining one, the borders of existing electorates need to be redrawn as well. So if you're currently living, if you're currently living in one electorate, now you may be part of another electorate, and that changes the margins. So can you identify any maybe Labor seats that were a significant margin towards Labor that has now been reduced?
Yes.
Chisholm
would have been a real stretch for the Liberals, but they abolished the seat of Higgins, which was a Labor seat, but it was marginal. Probably the Liberals would have got it back, but they've now got a real show in Chisholm. But in Victoria, they adjusted margins quite significantly across the board, and what they've done is they've made the Labor seat of Wills extremely marginal to the Greens. Labor will have to defend that with their lives.
Because what's happened is in the southern part of the Wills electorate goes into Fitzroy North, Carlton North, and that's hardcore Green area.
Yeah, the Greens have the Labor margin has been halved from nearly 10% to around about 4%. So that's very achievable for the Greens. And Samantha Radtham, who's the leader of the Victorian Greens, has resigned and she's standing in Wills. So this is going to be a knife fight.
So the Greens, for her to step down and contest the lower house seat, she must be confident.
Yep. She wouldn't be doing it for her, well.
Is it a temporary, if she doesn't get in, does she go back up the upper house?
No.
Oh, she has officially resigned.
No. She's nailed her colours to the mast.
Well, if the election is, say, let's say this time next year or May next year, that means she has to wait for another 18 months to go back into Victoria. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, no, she stood down.
What about Western Australia? How does that change the situation there?
Well, the Liberals are always going to get back Tangney, and I give them a good chance of getting Curtin back off the teal, which is what's her name, Cheney. So they're basically Labor's losing one seat, but there's the 4 marginals that they picked up. Bear in mind that the Western Australian vote was a disaster for the Liberal Party. It was the biggest Labor vote ever, and it was the biggest swing. So there's 4 marginal seats apart from the 3 we've mentioned that could go anywhere. It depends on how the Liberals reinvent themselves in the West. But I'd say you could pencil in 3 seats for the Liberals, one of which will come from Labor. And in Victoria, you can bet that they're going to get back Aston, and they'll probably win Chisholm, and they'll probably win Kooyong off Monique Ryan.
All right. Well, we can talk about Kooyong in a little bit.
But Labor's looking at losing probably 4 seats in Victoria at this stage.
Will it be enough for the Liberals? I mean, you're talking about...
Nothing will be enough to get the Liberals into a majority government. I don't see them winning 22 seats. But if Labor lose 15, they can't form government. And then we've got a constitutional crisis, as I've said before.
As you've said before, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think
they're on target to lose 15 seats right now at 50-50. So if we go 52-48 against Labor, then Dutton could actually go close. But that's a very marginal sort of narrow path.
How do you feel about this, Sam?
I'm a bit different to Richard. Australians will give Albo the benefit of the doubt. Australians don't like sacking a first Prime Minister, a first term. That's just my opinion at this moment.
Well, that's just because they've never had the chance before.
True, but
right? I mean, the Labor Party's turned on its own to not give them the chance. They turned on Rudd, they turned on Gillard. Yeah. They haven't had the chance to throw out a first term Prime Minister. It's like we haven't got that far yet.
Dutton's got a chance if he can win some of the seats in New South Wales. Can he win some parts of the Central Coast or Hunter Valley? Can he win Western Sydney? There are 1 or 2 seats out there.
Well, we don't know until the redistribution.
Right. What needs to happen in New South Wales to be the most beneficial situation for Peter Dutton?
Well, I think.
First of all, we want Goulburn in Eden Monero, right? Angus Taylor will be very, very upset, but that's the first thing we want. The second thing we want is probably to get a winnable seat on the South Coast, and Andrew Constance will sort of manoeuvre his way or slime his way to wherever he needs to be.
I think he'll lime his way.
The only problem with Andrew down there is that if the redistribution goes up further north into Kiama, that comes onto
it can't go that way because it's got to go south.
Well, it's all Well, so you're saying it'll go into Eden Monero?
Yeah, it has to go into Eden.
Well, the further south you go, you think that'd be better for Constance.
See, there's a radical problem with the New South Wales redistribution, and that is Whitlam, because Whitlam's a third Southern Highlands and 2/3 Wollongong.
Southern Wollongong.
And it's a mess, and it's been a mess for 15 years. It's just because the AEC are incredibly lazy. They make these bizarre decisions and then defend them.
I actually got on the website last night. I was looking at all the submissions that had been presented by people, and it could be everyday people, and it could just be a line of what they feel about it. And obviously, me being in Warringah, I was reading a lot of those, and it's just interesting to see what people's comments are. You know, they'll say, we don't want to see Warringah abolished because this is, it's been here forever. And some of the comments were saying, we don't want to take parts of North Sydney because North Sydney is very different to the Northern Beaches. And then, I read those comments and I can understand that there is a difference between the Northern Beaches and North Sydney. But when you look at rural seats, like for example, Parks, which takes up 1/3 of the state, it's huge. Yeah. And other seats that you've just mentioned where one area is completely different to another area. Yeah. Do you think it's fair for people in seats like Warringah to want to keep it isolated to themselves?
Yeah, they have something that's called community of interest, which opens up all these incredibly stupid and sentimental arguments.
NIMBYs.
Just drives me nuts. It's like it's not practical or realistic, and it opens the door for sort of undercurrents of partisan sort of lobbying to have certain areas in certain places and stuff like that. So the other thing that happens is because there's such big movements on the north side of the harbour, because of the abolition of a seat, and it does have to be either North Sydney or Warringah. At this stage, it looks like it's going to be North Sydney, which is a teal seat. So what that means is that because some seats are really under quota and some seats are really over quota, it means that there's big movements. So Parramatta's going to be forced into taking a whole lot of areas from further north, and that will probably make it very marginal. So Andrew Charlton's going to have a fight.
And Bennelong will change too.
Yeah, Bennelong will change. Bennelong's gone for the Labor Party. They can't possibly hold it.
Especially if that goes, especially if East Ryde, Hunters Hill, and what's the next suburb on the other side?
It's all Hunters Hill and Lane Cove.
No, I don't think Lane Cove will go into Bennelong.
I'll bet you it does.
Oh, you reckon? Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
And also Greenway could be redrawn in a very unfavourable way, or Macquarie.
Macquarie be more.
I mean,
might hurt.
One of the other arguments that I heard was that to abolish either North Sydney or Warringah was a plot from the coalition to target teal electorates. Has it got anything to do with that?
No, absolutely nothing. It's purely on population, number of voters. So you get this sort of hyperbole, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That would be the last thing that would be happening. And everyone always goes on about how the AEC is biased in one way or the other. Well, last time, if you wanted to run that argument, Labor got a net 3-seat gain from the last New South Wales redistribution.
Yeah. So almost this is like balancing the books again.
That's right.
Well, it's much more about the fact that you've had all these isolated, very strong Liberal communities isolated in Labor seats, and basically they've been silenced. And what you want is a redistribution to get more representation for each voter. And if one community, like you got a community like say Abbotsbury is in Fowler, and it votes like 65% Liberal. And Fowler's had before Lee took Fowler. Fowler was like the safest seat in Sydney for Labor. So this community had no voice, none, and that's just wrong. Every community should have a voice in their electorate. They should have their federal member interested in who they are and what they want.
So, are any of the MPs that we might not like in danger? Like, is there any high-profile members of Parliament now that are facing?
Oh yeah,
a tough road?
Monique Ryan's gone.
Yeah,
I don't like her at all.
Well,
she's a nasty, cranky old crone.
I think you've made that clear. I did something interesting this week. I went on Crikey, and it's actually quite fascinating to see the articles that are written there. And this one's about Monique Ryan. It's talking about the battle for Kooyong may come down to who can reach frustrated millennial and Gen Z voters. The teal incumbent has her eye on them. So, and it goes on to say, it goes on to talk about how she's targeting the younger voters through TikTok and.
Well, good luck with that. She's still a filthy old granny.
Well, one of the other things it pointed out was that the Liberals had a very young candidate down there, but now that Josh Frydenberg seems to be targeting Kooyong again.
He's not going there.
No, he put a statement out on Monday afternoon.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what's her name? Amelia Hamer. Yeah, she's running. Yeah, she'll kill Monique Ryan.
So she's 31 years old.
Yeah. Yep. And she's a banker, an economist, all the rest of it. And she's the niece of one of Victoria's favourite premiers.
Well, I found it interesting because they were rabbiting on about these little selfie videos that Monique Ryan does, and about how fantastic they are and how they reach the young people on TikTok, and she's getting a huge following there. I might play one of them now so you can get a.
What about her anti-Jewish stance?
Well,
Kooyong's one of the four most concentrated Jewish communities.
Hang on, let's take one issue at a time. All right, this is Monique Ryan addressing Mr. Dutton.
Oh, Jesus.
We're going to accept a situation where the only people who can afford to buy a house are those with wealthy parents.
You did this. Your party did this. Let's get the record straight. Peter Dutton's Liberal Party is one of the main reasons that young people cannot buy a house right now. Let's just have a look at what's happened to housing in Australia since Peter Dutton was elected to Parliament in 2001. Since 2001, house prices have increased by 400%. Wages have increased only half as much. In 2001, it took 6 years to save for a house deposit. Now it takes 11 years. Young people are losing hope of buying their own home, and that did not happen overnight. One of the things that really frustrates me about the major parties is how they fail to acknowledge the responsibility that they have for screwing things up for the next generation. My generation is now at serious risk of being the first ever to leave this world worse off than we found it. Peter Dutton has been...
and it goes on a little bit. She rambles on. But for me, the elephants in the room are she doesn't come up with any solutions. She just identifies the problem, which we all know.
No,
we know what housing affordability is.
She also identifies who's responsible and who to blame.
But she ignores the elephant in the room, which is immigration.
Of course.
I mean, she shows these graphs of house prices going up. Why doesn't she show the graph of immigration going up at the same rate? Yeah. And surprise, surprise, house prices are increasing as well. She doesn't want to talk about that.
That's because she doesn't understand the law of supply and demand. That's all that is.
Well,
she's an economically illiterate moron.
Or maybe she's just choosing to ignore it.
She's only doing what the data tells her to say.
She's an idiot.
I can see you getting. I see the rage and the anger. Like, I know you fire up about Anthony Albanese. Maybe we've found a new target for you. Maybe we need to start talking about Monique every episode.
I've got more targets than bullets, mate.
Be careful. I've heard some stories lately. You can't make those statements anymore.
Especially if it's coming from Climate 200.
Oh, look, everyone's safe. I don't have a fatal illness.
You know what I heard about? This is completely off topic, but they're trying to introduce this law in Queensland where if you're a gun, if you own a gun and you have a cousin in Whoop Whoop that threatens to come to your house, get your gun and kill someone, they can take your gun off you. Yeah. Even though you're not the one making the threat, it's just a crazy family member that you may have. They can repossess your firearm.
If that's come from the Labor Party in Queensland, they're gone in 2 months' time. So that would.
What do you think? Do you think Liberal will have? You think Liberal's gonna?
There's no upper house in Queensland. So
I mean, who took the guns away in the first place?
Yeah, Howard and Latham. They both agreed with it at the time.
Latham? It was 1996.
Well, he wasn't opposite. Who was? Who was Latham? Beasley, was it?
Beasley.
Oh, damn.
Why did we have you on this show?
Oh, I should have turned up.
So you're convinced that Monique Ryan is gone.
Yep.
Do you want to play another one? Let's play another one just to get your reaction. I just want to see.
Why?
I just want to have some fun.
Generations, lazy, disinterested, or both?
Thank you for your input at Current Affair, but that's the wrong question. Let me tell you what I think the right question is. Young people work just as hard as my generation did, but for less. Buying a house now is twice as hard as it was when I was in my 20s. Renting requires twice the income for young people as it did for their parents. Much of my generation went to university for free. Now, the average HECS debt is $24,000. The typical young Australian has less than $2,000 in the bank. Cost of living crisis has affected everybody, but it's affected young people more than older Australians.
All right, and then again,
it's just a liar.
Again, she rambles on, but you can see
it's all data. It's all data. What the data tells them to say.
But it's clear that she's targeting the youth. You can see an opportunity there. So that's what she's going after, and it's just politics, isn't it? I mean, does she offer a solution in any of these?
She's saying basically in Kooyong, there's a much younger demographic moving in.
Yeah, the renters.
Yeah. In Richmond or Hawthorne and things like that. That's where there's high rises where that people rent. It's no different what the Greens are doing and stuff like that. All Homes and Courts done data and saying this, we are to target this people. We can lose a bit from the older people, but because there's more younger people than older people.
Do you think the younger people will fall for it?
Yeah, because they lose hope.
Yeah,
They've got someone that's talking about them and understanding them and expressing the issues that they're facing. Even though she's not offering solutions, she's at least acknowledging them and talking about
psychological. They think they're talking to the younger people,
and they're painting the Liberals and specifically Dutton as, oh, he's out of touch. When he's in government, he did nothing. He doesn't understand you. I understand you. I know exactly how you're feeling and how you're hurting. Even though she's quite wealthy, isn't she? Like, what would she know about people struggling?
She's doing what the Climate 200 doing what they did. Because ScoMo's gone, they're going to do the same thing on Dutton, just try and bash Dutton as much.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that they've lost their key issue, which was climate change. 2022 was about climate change. 1, 2, and 3. I mean, people were terrified.
And ScoMo too.
Yeah, ScoMo.
Well, what's interesting for me is
that didn't motivate people to vote for the teals. It wasn't ScoMo, it was climate change.
Oh, I think a bit of both. I think there was.
Everyone was
over
everyone was over ScoMo.
Yeah.
That just sort of added impetus to it. But it was really about climate change, and I just don't think that that's going to run this time. It might run a bit, but I don't think it'll run like it did in 2022.
Yeah.
So she's got to find a new narrative.
Well, she's never. Both those videos have said nothing about climate change.
Yep.
Yep. So the data. This is
there was part of that article was saying that if she was to get the balance of power, one of the things she would like to focus on is tax reform. So nothing about emissions reduction.
What she means about tax reform is she wants to increase capital gains tax and put on a wealth tax, which will finance public housing. That's basically
what you remember.
Wouldn't people in those situations that are struggling to find housing, wouldn't they support a policy like that?
They might, but it would be wrong, and it would not give them what they want, which is better access to housing.
What you remember?
It would do other things, but it wouldn't do that.
What you remember?
Because it's failed overseas. It's been tried and tried and tried. All those policies ever do is they put more money in the hands of more politicians to waste. That's what happens.
Both those videos and all the campaigning is all based on data. All that the Climate 200 and COS Samaras all do polls are in the teal seats. Yeah, been doing it since day one. They keep the poll every month just to keep track of things. People on the ground. So all this sort of stuff is all based on data. They're data freaks, these Climate 200 people. So whatever they're saying is based on pure data.
One of the reasons why Kooyong whatever they do in Kooyong won't work, because what's happened with the anti-Israel action from the teals is going to bite home really hard in Kooyong and Goldstein.
I would say that is they might lose 1 or 2% of that part of it.
No,
just listen up. 1 or 2% could be lost to the Jewish vote, back to the Liberals, but they're thinking the younger people, we can get 3 or 4%. So we're prepared to give something up to get something bigger back.
Your arithmetic, both of you, like them and you, is wrong. And I'll explain why. There's 100,000 Jews in Australia, but they're very concentrated in about 5 electorates.
That's right.
The second thing is there's lots of people like me, which the Nazis used to charmingly call Mischling, right, which means mutt, right? I'm half. There's also quarters. There's also friends and family. So that 100,000 could swell to 500,000 in 5 electorates. You understand?
Fair enough, yeah, I'm saying.
Right?
And you're saying that because the teals came out against Israel?
Yep. They signed all sorts of documents criticizing Israel and asking, and condemning the war and asking for a 2-state solution. Well, 2-state solutions are wonderful, except if one side doesn't want to stop fighting, you haven't got anything.
Well, let's get back to Israel, because I do want to talk about that, but I want to finish up with Crikey, because it was interesting for me, because I think a lot of us we get trapped in an echo chamber. And it's interesting to see what their echo chamber is and what's influencing them. You know, we often see lefties and we go, why do they think like that? How can they come up with these crazy theories and these crazy thoughts? Well, they're in their own echo chamber. We're in our echo chamber. Right. And honestly, I read some of these Crikey articles, and some of them were very interesting.
I actually disagree with you, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not in an echo chamber, because I go outside to listen to what other people think, and I'm curious. I actually inquire about
where do you get your news from.
So what? The news does not inform my values or my historical knowledge. It's just an adjunct to it.
Okay, but where do you get your news from?
Where do you think?
Sky News?
No, the Australian, and I scan a lot of other sources like the Nightly and all the Fairfax
and you live
stuff.
on Tally Room.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is
great lefty.
Let's get your reaction about this article here. This is again from Crikey. Crikey reader reply: Giles, as in Andrew Giles, the immigration minister, is actually one of our best immigration ministers in years.
He's a contender for being one of the worst ministers of all time in Federation history.
A registered migration agent weighs in on the visa cancellation process and the work of Immigration Minister Andrew Giles. There he is.
Wow.
The attacks on Immigration Minister Andrew Giles make me very angry and deeply depressed at the naked politicization of the Immigration Department. So many reader comments and public commentary display massive ignorance of the processes around visa cancellation and removal of non-citizens and the generally careful weighted decision-making processes of the Administration Appeals Tribunal members. How do you feel about that, Richard?
Utter bullshit. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. He's one of the worst ministers I've ever seen.
But why?
Because he's been completely ineffectual. He's not transparent. He doesn't explain anything that he's doing. He's got no idea what he's doing. He's just covering up for the Prime Minister. He's taken direction from the Prime Minister without acknowledging that he has. That's what Directive 99's been all about. And as far as I'm concerned, I want an immigration minister that's judged on how many people he deports, not how many people he lets in.
How many people he deports?
Yeah.
Why does there need to be a focus on how many people he's deporting?
Because that's a good key performance indicator.
How did
Big Pete send about 11,000 overseas in 1 year? That was brilliant.
These are families and children and people that are struggling.
No, they're not. They're criminals that have failed to win citizenship, and they've kept on committing crimes, and they should go back to where they were born.
Every single one of them?
Every single one of them.
All 1,100 are criminals.
Which 1,100?
You said
11,000.
So 11. So okay, even more to the point.
There was no innocence. Do you think about this?
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
If you go to jail,
I've been reading Crikey all week, and I think I've switched. I think I've turned.
Really?
Right? Yeah. I think they've got to me. And
there's a place for you at Royal North Shore. I mean, if you think about this logically, if you go to jail for 12 months, you've had to have hurt someone pretty badly. And there's no one that's been deported that hasn't been in jail for at least 12 months.
Why do the lefties want to keep those people in Australia then?
Why do the lefties think anything that they do?
Well, they believe.
I mean, don't ask me to explain insanity to you.
Well,
besides the fact, I want to make a point here. You know, Jacinda used to come over here and whine and carry on about how we were sending Australians over to New Zealand because they were criminals and they just happened to have been born in New Zealand. They weren't really New Zealanders. Well, so what? They send all their criminals from Samoa and Tonga and Cook Islands. They send them back home. So it's just typical Jacinda Ardern hypocrisy. You know. Well, so she came over here. She went up to Albo and said, "Anthony, you can't keep sending us Australians. You can send us New Zealanders, but not Australians. These are Australians." And because he was sort of so enamored with her, he said, "All right, we'll do something about it." And hence we got Directive 99, which opened the floodgates to immigration ministers keeping all these retarded criminals.
What was Agent 86 doing then?
No, Agent 86. Directive 99 replaced Directive 90, which is what Christian Porter and Peter Dutton.
It's just so
what's
it's just
112 now?
It's just so comical to me. Directive 99. Oh, it's like
Sure thing 86.
it's like,
Yeah, well,
it's like Star Wars where he goes execute order 66 or whatever.
smart,
that,
mate. Actually smart.
whatever.
Well, the whole thing is they're all melodramatic because they don't have anything else in their lives. That's politicians.
I mean the what I've put out today, we're going to talk about Andrew Giles, and I say, is he one of our best immigration ministers, or does he need to go?
He's a retard.
He's a disgrace.
He's a lying, disgraceful
But
retard.
people would say
But
that
the thing is, he's actually taken instructions from the Prime Minister, so the Prime Minister can't fire him.
Yeah.
Because he will talk.
Well,
he's weak.
Can he reshuffle could he reshuffle his cabinet and move Giles into another portfolio?
Well, there's talk about Bill Shorten getting the ambassador's job to France. Maybe Andrew Giles will get them.
Well, I think what that is, I think that's a move by Albanese to get Shorten out and then also have an excuse to reshuffle, move Giles into another portfolio, and it's a win-win on Albanese's part. He gets rid of one of his rivals in Shorten, and he can mitigate the damage that Giles has done by moving him into another portfolio.
But Giles will cause trouble everywhere he is because he's
moving
incompetent.
into like an arts portfolio or something like that, or they don't care about Veterans Affairs. I'll probably put him there.
Well, that's probably a good place for him.
What to screw up veterans?
Anyway, you asked a question about, is there anyone that we really dislike that's going to lose their seat? I actually would like to say that there are a couple of people who I really like who are going to lose their seats for Labor. And one of them is Meryl Swanston, who I think is brilliant, and she's the member for Patterson, and she's gone.
So how can we keep just losing good people all the time, and the rat bags get to stay in there?
Well, see, the good people do things like they challenge the Prime Minister. They speak out of turn. Like, I mean, the first thing Albo did was he made Meryl Swanston the party whip to shut her up because she was telling him the truth all the time. He didn't like it. And then he moved Tanya from education to environment because that was a real hospital pass.
Yeah.
And he moved Shorten. He made sure that Shorten stayed in NDIS instead of something meaningful like defence.
I've put the link in the chat if anyone wants to call in and abuse Richard. You can also ask a question if you want, but please call in and abuse Richard.
I read something yesterday or today. They say Brendan O'Connor's going to pull the pin.
Good.
And there was another Labor girl in Melbourne that was going to pull the pin.
Vamikigo?
Not the one that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
I think she's... No, there's another one. I saw Brendan O'Connor. There was another person that wasn't that girl.
I mean, what I'm anticipating next year is I'm anticipating spending a month on pre-poll for 2 federal elections and then probably another month for all the by-elections after the second one, which is all the Labor rats deserting the ship after they've been thrown out.
Well, you'll find Albo will leave the parliament pretty quick.
Well, that won't be worth campaigning because the Greens will take his seat.
It'd be interesting what happens there. It'd be interesting what the Liberal Party people do in Grainler if it happens.
Well,
back to Grainler, there's been arguments about Grainler being abolished through the redistribution.
People say that if the AEC are fair, Grainler should go.
But they're saying it won't go because it's Albanese
That's
seat.
right.
Now,
right.
is that right though? Just because it's the Prime Minister seat, should it be protected?
It's absolutely wrong.
Yeah,
but this is what happens with the AEC. The AEC does not have stones. It won't stand up for things. It won't do what's right. It'll just do what's expedient.
Yeah, but what Albo would do if Grainler got abolished, you'll just take over from Barton's seat.
Yeah,
so that wouldn't be a problem.
Of course, I mean, of course.
And Marrickville will probably go into Barton if that did occur. Marrickville, where he
just talking to the microphone.
Marrickville, for where he lives, you find that will go probably Barton.
Well, I mean,
because the other side of Barton,
the whole basis for this argument is that
the other side
there's only really one seat that's viable out of Grainler and Barton. That's the whole argument that underlies this.
Then Sydney would get a bit bigger. Sydney would take a Newtown and stuff like that.
Well, by the time you get out, where it really sort of counts, is by the time you get out to Macarthur, which is like 30,000 voters over quota, probably there'll probably be a movement of 60,000 voters in and out. So Macarthur will probably get pushed right over to Camden and become a marginal Liberal seat.
So just to finish up, what do you do with Giles?
Well, what I would do with him is I'd fire him and send him to Siberia. But I mean,
he'll lose when there's a ministerial reshuffle. He'll move somewhere else.
Yeah, so they'll just give him a smaller portfolio or less significant.
Like Bernie will pull the pin, say, "Well, I'm retiring in the election at the end of the term," and if they do a change in July, August during the winter break.
Who becomes immigration minister?
I think it's
someone brave.
Would they put Tanya Plibersek there?
No, she won't do that.
No, she won't take it.
No, she won't take it.
What about Andrew Charlton?
No, he won't take it.
He won't be in finance. The finance people.
Yeah. He's the next finance minister in the Labor government, or the next treasurer.
Could be next treasurer if Chalmers is prime minister.
Yep.
Okay. So also the big news through the week was the Labor Party teaming up with the Liberal Party to attack the Greens on their stance on Gaza and Israel.
Yeah.
Before we get into the real discussion, do you have any thoughts about that, Richard? I know this is a passionate issue for you.
No, it's not actually.
Let's see about that.
I think
see what you say in 5 minutes.
I think it's very influential. But I mean, this was just all show from Albanese, who's always been a pro-Palestinian activist. There's plenty of data on his real position on this. He just decided to, get some attention by attacking the Greens, and it didn't last more than 24 hours because they about faced, didn't they?
Well, when Dutton said yesterday, are you going to preference the Greens last?
Yeah.
And he didn't say that's up to head office, and I'm not going to listen to what Dutton says, who preferences one nation before the Greens. So.
Yeah, all this weak-ass, insubstantial bullshit. So, I mean, it didn't mean anything.
The reason that Albo attacked the Greens because his office has been attacked. Half the Shorten's office has been attacked.
Chris Minns.
Even Minns has it.
Yeah, it's been painted.
There's a couple others around the inner city. The girl from Cooper.
Yeah,
but they've been splashed with red and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Should these politicians and political parties be taking a side on warfare? Specifically, this one. Should they be backing Israel? Should they be backing?
What the Greens?
Gaza?
I'll ask you a question. Do you want to stand with a modern liberal democratic democracy or a medieval theocracy that wants to kill people?
I want to stand with humanity. I don't like seeing any innocent people die.
Not an answer.
It is an answer.
No, it's not.
Let's look at some data.
Innovation.
All right, time to fire you up, Richard. This is I actually started last night. I was looking to see if I could find some numbers on how many. Hang on. I was looking to find some numbers on how many Israeli soldiers had died in this conflict, and I haven't been able to find any. But I found this. This is from Al Jazeera. This is real-time death toll, and the current death toll stands at 37,263 Palestinians, compared with 1,139 people killed in Israel. Now, every single one of those people. Well, maybe not every single one, because maybe some of them are the terrorists who I do feel that did need to get addressed, but there are innocent people that are dying in all of this. Now, some more statistics. I mentioned the total number of people killed in Gaza, but more than 15,000 of those are children.
Yep.
Now, this is a significant number, I think. More than 83,530 people have been injured. More than 10,000 people are missing.
Right.
So in the West Bank, there's still people dying there. 532 people have died in the West Bank. 133 of those are children, with 5,000 injured. In Israel, the death toll is basically from the initial attack on October 7th, 1,139 people killed, over 8,700 people injured.
Let me explain my viewpoint on this. I despise sentimentality as a weakness. So when I look at a situation,
no, not when babies are dying and getting blown to shreds.
Babies are dying all the time.
It's not a justification.
It's not a way to make decisions either. So
that Israel were meant to go in there.
Very different about this.
Israel were meant to go in there and get rid of Hamas. Instead, they're bombing innocent people. And
I don't agree with your typification at all.
That's the consequences of war.
I'm not, but you can't just. We've got to get past this, and this is why I don't support either. I've got to make it clear. I'm not supporting Israel. I'm not supporting Hamas. I'm not supporting anyone. I don't want to see innocent people get blown to shreds, because all these situations, whether it's in every single war, what it really is politicians sitting there in their ivory towers playing these stupid political games, and the people on the ground that just want to live their lives, have families and be happy, get blown to pieces.
Well, why? Well, okay, before October 7, it was all peace and quiet. It was all peace. They come and slaughtered 1,200 people. What did you want? Get men and heart?
But does that open the door to kill babies?
Well, they kill babies.
It's not about killing babies.
Of course it is. I just told you the numbers of people.
It's part of war.
They're meant to go after Hamas, all right? Now, this is my view, and you might say that I was naive for thinking this, but as soon as October 7 happened, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And Israel was going to go in there.
Hamas and Israel and Iran knew what the Israelis were going to do.
Why didn't the international community step in and say, look, Israel, we know what's happened to you. We know it's wrong. We know you need to defend yourself, but we can't just let you go in there and do what you're going to do, because everyone knew what Israel were going to do. It's just that's just the situation. Why didn't the international community get together and send some peacekeepers?
I don't agree with any of that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I disagree with you completely. For a start,
the
international community is not going to go in if the neighbours don't go in. And if you have a look at Egypt's border with Gaza, you'll see an 8-kilometre deep defensive line. The Egyptians do not want to get involved. They do not want to have any dealings with the Palestinians. They've seen what the Palestinians have done in Lebanon and Jordan, which is to start wars.
It's probably not.
No one wants to get Yeah. No one wants to know about it.
The only ones involved is Israel.
Yep. And Israel didn't get a choice.
Iran.
Israel didn't have a choice. They were attacked. They had to respond. And if their response was so genocidal, as everyone keeps on, going berserk about, it would look like the Battle of Berlin, which took 2 weeks, and the Red Army wiped out 1 million people in 2 weeks. That's what it took. That's your historical equivalence. That's your historical.
So you're using historical numbers to justify what's happening now.
I'm just looking at it as an equivocation.
So if Anthony Albanese woke up tomorrow morning and said, "Oh, I feel like firing some rockets into Shanghai today," and he fires off a whole bunch of rockets and kills 1,000 people in Shanghai, and the Chinese turn around and go, "Well, this is an act of war. We're going to bomb Sydney to smithereens," and people that don't support Albanese, don't like Albanese, their families get blown up by these attacks.
That's what's called war.
But that's what I'm saying. It's politicians running all this stuff for their own gains or their own madness. Maybe there's
a lot more people than just politicians involved in the whole Middle East thing. There's a whole industry all around the world that gets.
But are they the ones that get blown up?
What do you say for the people of Israel who have been attacked?
I'm not taking a side. That's horrific as well. That should never have happened. The footage of young girls getting raped and paraded through the streets, that was horrible. It was terrible. It made me sick. I don't want to see that on any side. I don't want to see it anywhere. I'm not taking a side. All I'm saying, for me, it's humanity versus stupid politicians that just want to blow everyone up, and arms dealers and whoever else. That's what we need. That's what we need to get past. We can't have people like you that justify their actions by saying, "Oh, well, I've studied history and the Battle of Berlin, all these people died, and the Battle of Stalingrad, they were eating each other and blah, blah, blah." It's not a justification to give these psychopaths an excuse to blow people up.
It's not an excuse. That's reality. That's the world we live in.
No, it doesn't have to be. Why does it have to be reality?
I'll explain it to you in spiritual terms. I've spent my whole life learning how to let go of fighting.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Hang on, let me ask you this. Everyone's saying we're on the verge of World War III.
I'll be quick. Let me finish. I'll be quick. So the reason this whole situation has come about is because there's a whole group of people, one side, that's decided they want to keep fighting, regardless of the cost. And until they get sick of it or decide that it's not worth it or they want to do something else, they want to keep fighting. And this is why we have what we have.
Hamas
they are not prepared to stop fighting. They still think that there's something to be gained by fighting.
Well, Hamas and Iran are saying we want every Jewish person dead.
And that's wrong.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's
when
they
faced with that,
don't want a two-state solution.
Yeah, they want a one-state solution.
Everyone's saying that we're on the verge of World War III at the moment. There's a lot of talk around, and obviously we don't want to
be Iran. We don't China.
We don't want to go to World War III. Here's my question: why?
Because
why are we on the verge of World War III?
Israel has 300 nuclear weapons, and all it takes is one weapon of mass destruction to be used against them, and they will respond in kind. So, what's it going to take before people realise that you have to let go of fighting if you want to progress? If you want to progress, you have to let go of fighting.
I agree. I think
So if you go up to the biggest, nastiest guy in your school and kick him in the nuts, what do you expect is going to happen? That's what Israel has said. They've pledged, we will respond in kind to any attack. They have said what they will do. So if there's an attack, it will incinerate a billion human beings. That is a world war.
Hang on.
Hang on.
If we follow your logic, take October 7th happens.
Yeah.
And Netanyahu turns around and says, well, we're just going to nuke Gaza. What's the difference?
You won't nuke Gaza.
Well, what's the difference, hypothetically?
The difference is that Israel has a measured response. So that they said, you've attacked us, we're going to attack you. Right? Now, if they get attacked with a weapon of mass destruction,
this is Richard's example of a measured response.
Well, that's a measured response.
You're almost happy with that all these people have died.
I want the world to learn the lesson.
Come back domestically. Come back to you've had just both had your point. When my parents came out here in the late 50s, we got told by white Australians in those days saying,
"Yeah,
what's happened in Italy this is Australia, mate. This is the Australian way." And what I found the last couple of months is that you got these activists and the universities taking on issues that are 50,000 miles away.
Old world hatreds.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I got taught as a kid in the 70s. That what happens in Italy and what happens around the country doesn't happen in Australia. You learn the Australian way.
Yep.
And that's what's disappointing. Suddenly we got every issue around the world gets to the universities or gets to the streets every Sunday afternoon. That's my biggest issue.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
Stay out. Stay
the hell out of it. We're so far away from
this. Is Australia, mate. People give their right arm to be an Australian resident. You know.
All we should be having is the government lobbying both sides for peace. Is that fair?
No.
No. You just want to see them all blown up. Let's bring up some more statistics. more devastation in Gaza, right? So you think all this is justified? According to the latest data from the UN Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the World Health Organization, the Palestinian
do you think
government,
this is going to stop at Gaza?
More than half of Gazans' homes have been destroyed or damaged. 80% commercial facilities, 86% of schools have been blown to pieces.
Yep.
14 out of 35 hospitals are partially functioning. 83% of groundwater wells are not operational, and 267 places of worship.
Yep,
that's justified.
Yep.
So would you like to see that happen in your home here? Would you like to see your home blown up?
Look, if someone attacks me, I'll hit back.
How? If China attacks, how are you going to hit back?
Well, you'll die.
So it's okay just for us to die.
If there's a ground force from China, we'll take them on.
With what? We don't have any guns. Well, what are you going to use? Some sticks and throw some rocks at them?
Hopefully they come here via the wet season so they get bogged in.
You're making this a joke. This is serious. I mean, people with families are dying.
Yeah.
Talk about politicians. There's one prominent politician in the New South Wales Parliament who's anti-war, but he's been anti-war about about the Chinese and all that. But he's been very quiet with the Israel situation.
Come on, don't speak in tongues. Who are you talking about?
John Ruddock.
Oh, well, he's become a pacifist.
No, that's his personal opinion. That you read that, make the Liberal Party great again.
We've got
but what I'm trying to say is he's anti-war, but he's been very, and a lot of on his Twitter say a lot about the Iran, the Chinese, and the Russian, and all that sort of stuff like that. But he's absolutely been conspicuous on the Israel Gaza stuff.
Well, maybe he's finally realised that he's a state parliamentarian and this issue shouldn't be part of his focus. Maybe he needs to fix the pothole in Kemp's Creek. He's
not just about Kemp's Creek.
Well, the Greens aren't being quiet about it.
Yeah,
they talk about it the whole time. They wear their keffirs to Parliament. Yeah.
Well, I think that, I mean, why take a side? People are dying on both sides.
On the Green side, it's all politics.
Just say we don't want any innocent people dying. Why pick a side? Why does whether someone lives or dies? Right. Why do you have to justify whether someone lives or dies based on a line on a border on a map?
It's always been the way.
They went on the wrong side of the line.
Yeah,
they went on the wrong side of the line.
And that's okay.
That's what happens.
That's war.
Yeah,
you can't just say, "Oh, that's war." I mean,
well, I'm a pretty simple person. You invade my space, I can fight back.
Yep.
We got a comment here from Jeff Bartlett. Thank you, Jeff, for watching. I'm new to the channel and I'm intrigued and like what I've heard so far from you boys. Could you please give me a brief bio of each of your backgrounds? Thanks, Jeff. And then he goes on to say, I'm in Central Victoria. You all sound like you're from Sydney. Well, that is correct, Jeff. We are in Sydney, on the north side of Sydney.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm a retired
Sam's a loyal One Nation man.
Yeah. I'm a libertarian.
Richard's a libertarian.
I'm a non-professional carer, basically retired.
Yeah.
I have been in business before.
And I suppose you might say I'm a political activist and commentator.
That's right.
these days.
Sure.
Stroke no man's land.
You've actually got a career as well.
Say that again.
You've got a budding career
as well.
We'll see.
You've got a budding career. This is going to take a bit of time.
Yes. Well, that's fair enough. Speaking of the Libertarian Party, Richard, you know I love to have a go at you about the Libertarian.
Have a kick.
No, it's interesting. I'm not in the Libertarian Party. You are in the Libertarian Party, but we often agree with our views are usually a line of the direction of the Libertarian Party, but they're going through a big rebranding at the moment, right? And they've come up with a new logo. Have you seen the new logo? You mentioned before about having to stand at the polling booths.
It's not official yet, is it? Is it official?
It's all over their social media and everything like that.
I'm not even interested in looking. You know, it's like I couldn't be less interested.
That is the official thing, is it?
This is the brand new logo of the Libertarian Party. Now, as I said, they're going through a rebranding. They're going to be putting up these fantastic billboards. It says, I want to raise my kids in the ways I see fit. Libertarian. I am a libertarian. Here's some posters of the libertarians. And here's another logo. It looks very nice, doesn't it?
Look, the thing you've never understood, Stephen, is that I don't vote for politicians. I vote against them. So choosing a political party, I had to get the most the most closely aligned with my personal philosophy, which is, and so I chose the Libertarians because they're much more concerned about what they're not than what they are. And that's also a weakness.
Do you like the logo?
I like the logo.
You like it?
Yeah. But
you'd be happy to stand on the polling booth with a T-shirt with a big libertarian, libertarian logo.
My opinion is totally irrelevant. It's what my wife thinks of it.
And what does your wife think?
Well, when I showed her the old one with just libertarian on an orange T-shirt, she started laughing. She said, "Good for you. Next thing you'll be vegetarian." So she's had great amusement about it.
There is a bit of resistance. The New South Wales side of it don't like that.
How do you know?
Well, I looked at John Ruddock's Twitter feed on
Why?
Sunday,
Because the
Monday.
Victorians did.
That's right. Or the national executive. He said it's up to the members to decide this sort of stuff.
Oh, that's right. They're going to have a plebiscite on whether they like the logo or not, right?
Well, that's John Ruddock politics.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is that they need to be concentrating on building up their membership, their branches, and campaigning. And everything that's not that is just a distraction.
Well, what they need to focus on as well is donations. Now, we know the Libertarian, they're big drinkers. They like to drink. Half the people in the Libertarian Party are part of the Libertarian just for an excuse to go and have functions where they can drink at. But unfortunately, Pauline Hanson has stepped into the realm of donations through selling alcohol. She sells all her little alcohol and people buy it and they put it on the mantelpiece, which I think is, I mean, I guess I understand it, but she's already got that space already all sewn up. So the Libertarians, they like to think out of the box. They've had to think of other ways to fund their campaign. So they've decided that they're going to start selling dried fruits and nuts as part of their election campaigns. And I got some
I think that's a distraction. They do want to legalize marijuana.
I've got some examples here. Now you'll be able to buy your very own Libertarian Australian sultanas. You can get some Libertarian strawberry yogurt coated sultanas. And where is it? Where was it? Some Libertarian almonds.
My wife will be thrilled. She eats lots of almonds.
Did you send that? Did you send that to the people in New South Wales?
I will be. No, I'll be sending the Victorian people that one. Oh. So I think that's some of my best work there. How do you like that, Richard?
I think it's brilliant. So yeah. Look, there's always these distractions, and they really need to just concentrate on their main business.
But why is John and the New South Wales branch kicking? Why are they trying to make an issue out of this?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's like
I've got a theory.
Nonsense.
I've got a theory.
What?
It's either John's way or no way.
Well, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's situation normal.
And the people around him are all as one. I just think sometimes he can be a spoilt brat.
He'd probably take that as a compliment.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying, and the people around him.
It's like if you call Jeff Grimshaw naughty, it just about gets him GMS.
Yeah. No, I just thought that sometimes the way he goes on is if I can't win it through a committee, let's go to the members so I can get 51%.
Yeah, well, he's done it before.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Just sometimes it comes out like a bit of a spoiled brat. That's all.
Now, I guess we're at the stage where we need to finish up. Is there anything that you boys want to finish up on? I know some polling came out recently.
Yeah, some polling in the last couple of days in the Queensland election in a couple of months' time. Looks like Labor are gone. And, the mob have worked them out eventually, finally. So it looks like
they should have gone last time.
Yeah, the pandemic probably saved them, but I'm saying this time they're all ganged up on them. They're gone.
Mm.
I'm surprised that in Victoria there was a resolve poll about 2 weeks ago saying that the Labor Party primary vote polling was 27%. Then Cod Samaras from Redbridge yesterday put one in and it was 36 or 35. That's a big difference from 28 to 35. That's huge. That's 25% difference. I thought myself, what's going on here? That shouldn't be that far out.
Mm. Well, the polls are sort of doing this as we discussed.
Yeah.
And that's usually what happens before they make a break.
Yeah.
So,
no, just saying the differentials is a big 28 to 35 is huge.
But we've been having those all the time. Like the last news poll was 52-48.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a rogue poll. I think the Labor Party's lost paint between the election in 2022 and now.
I'd love to see some internal polling on both sides.
Yeah,
Labor and Liberal, and see where.
Well, they'll start leaking that after the redistribution.
If the polling was really way out, they would have leaked. Someone from the majors would have leaked it back to another article saying that our polling shows that it's a bit closer or a bit wider. So it looks like to me the polling's pretty consistent. Because if Labor was saying we're polling 55-45 and our primary is 39%, 37%, and everyone's saying 31-32, wouldn't that be a PR exercise saying, hold on, boys, our private polling saying we're 37, 38?
Yeah.
Or was it the other way around? Let the public people do that, where our polling's tracking this way and we're confident in our systems of saying we're polling at 36, 37.
Yeah, I mean,
And same thing as Liberals, they're probably tracking it the same way.
Let's talk a little bit about Queensland because the election is coming up, and we probably should start taking some focus, putting some focus on Queensland. A lot of One Nation candidates are starting to pop up, and they're, I mean, based on, I guess, all the way back to 1998, where they picked up, I think it was about 11 seats.
That's right.
And ever since then, they have picked up seats here or there.
That's right.
Is there a likelihood of One Nation people getting elected?
Not if the National Party LNP votes 47 in that polling done by Cos Samaras the other day. There's no way. If they're polling 47, it's going to be a wipeout. I think no one can win if they're polling 47%. Whereas, if anything, the One Nation seat in North Queensland could go.
So you don't think Ashby will get elected?
Oh God, I hope not.
Hope not. As I've said, I've got no problem with Pauline. My issues, a lot of people in New South Wales is the other guy. He's the biggest problem.
Sure.
What about Labor? How many seats do you think they'll end up with in Queensland?
Well, when the old tide goes out, the old saying, this is what a politician in New South Wales, bloke called Greg Warren from Campbelltown, said to me 12 months ago. He said, when the tide goes out, you get exposed, and if you haven't done the work, and they think, where's Greg Warren been the last couple of years? We haven't seen him. Bad luck, mate. You're out. But if you can be seen that you're working for him, say, oh, Greg's a good guy. They're going to get beaten, but Greg's still okay out here.
You've completely not answered my question.
What's that?
How many seats will Labor retain?
If it's that bad, they'll save the furniture. They'll try and save the furniture.
Yeah. So what are you talking? 30.
Because when Campbell Newman
20,
won,
25.
When will this be worse than when Campbell Newman won?
No,
they had 7. They had 7, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think Labor had 7 or 12.
Yeah, 7 or 12. Yeah, something like that.
I don't think it'll get to that situation. I don't think it'll be that bad. Because I think the primary vote of the LNP when Campbell Newman won was 53, 54.
I'd like to take a step back to the redistributions, because the seat of Higgins got abolished in Victoria. It means that there's a disenfranchised member, which is Ananda Singh or whatever her name is, and she's now wanting to be pre-selected for a seat that's already held by Karina Garland. So it's like a game of musical chairs where the music has stopped. So this is what's going to happen when a sitting member loses their seat or gets an unfavourable redistribution. You're going to look to shift somewhere. So this is what's going to be fun to watch.
You know what the Labor Party will do?
What?
Don't contest. We'll look after you after the election.
Well, there may not be any other way.
Well, I'm just saying, I still think they'll find her a job somewhere.
They are good at that.
They are. You look after they look after their own. They do. And they do that very well.
Yeah, they do it better than the Liberals.
That's right.
Well, thank you everyone for watching today. I also just want to highlight a new podcast that's popping up on our platform. If you follow us on Rumble, and Rumble is the best place for you to follow us. It's a new platform. It's a multinational platform. The Global Discussion Forum. The first podcast landed just this week. Catherine McBride was the guest, talking about, really, she mainly talked about trade. She's an expert on trade. She's part of the Trade and Agriculture Commission in the UK. Right. So we had a really good conversation with Catherine, and this is a very exciting platform. As I said, multinational, a lot of people from the UK, hopefully a lot of people from America will start joining, and be an opportunity to hear from politicians and experts and everything from around the world. So
good. Yeah,
just letting everyone know about that. If they want to, if you are following us on Rumble and other platforms and you start seeing this new podcast pop up, check it out, and let us know what you think as well in the comments. I'd be interested to see what people think about that. I'm sure you two have already watched it.
I didn't know.
I'm not.
My excuse, I've been crook all week.
Yeah.
Well, you should be in bed watching it.
We're not,
You didn't,
not
you
when you're
didn't
coughing
mention
and
it. I would have
splurting.
watched it if you'd mentioned it.
Well, I'm mentioning it now. I think you'd really like it. She's very impressive. So, yeah. So,
I've been coughing and splurting for a week and a half, mate.
well, thanks for coming here and sharing your germs with it. It's much appreciated.
Well, fun if I haven't been as noisy today. I just a little bit run down. That's still.
And Richard, fired up. I think you were especially fired up today. You've leveled your horns at Gaza. You've leveled your horns at Monique Ryan. You've leveled your horns at Andrew Giles, and of course, Albo as well, which is much deserved. You always have to leave space for Albo.
We always do.
But
he's always the person that never fails to disappoint me.
Well, hopefully the audience wasn't disappointed today. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, please follow us on the Rumble. If you do watch us on YouTube, head over to Rumble. It's the best place. We'll probably lose our YouTube at some point because we always get banned and everything like that. So use even if you want to follow us on Rumble as a backup, it'd be much appreciated. But for everyone watching today, thank you very much, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you all.